They say that the human race is doomed, that we have lost touch with our true nature, that the media has corrupted us, and that the planet has no future. I disagree. I believe that humanity is full of hope, and that our salvation lies within each one of us. My name is Brian Rose, and my job is to listen, the oldest method of learning known to man. Each week I seek out individuals that are changing the world, people who are living and thinking in a different way. Their stories will challenge your beliefs, make you question your choices, and perhaps inspire you to change. I never planned on doing any of this, but now I can't stop. Join me on this mission and make humanity something we can all be proud of.
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Kevin Martin, recent graduate of the Broadcast Yourself Accelerator. Welcome.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to be here. It's a privilege to be here. I'm really excited.
Tell us a bit about you. Where are you from? What do you do?
So I was brought up in Fulham. I was brought up in a council estate in Fulham. So that was a really different experience. You learn to be streetwise very, very quickly. You have to adjust. You become sort of like, there's a sense of being hyper vigilant, but you sort of learn to mix and make friends and make decisions very quickly. But really diverse cultures. Around my teens, I got into the hip hop culture and that aspect, so I was mixing with a lot of black guys, black friends in that aspect. But the thing I loved about we had, the commonality was we had no money. And that was the thing that brought us together, and that was the way we sort of created that community, and that's, you know, that was like the bond, and it breached all the cultural differences, which I found really, really interesting. And we had to get off in the end because it got too dangerous. The drugs got in, people were getting stabbed, and it got really quite violent, so we eventually got off and went a different way. We were quite lucky. Most people don't get off out of them environments.
Wow, interesting. And how'd that shape you as a person?
Yeah, it's made me very conscious of different backgrounds, different upbringings, and how people develop. And I think a lot of my life I saw it as something not to cherish. But now, looking back and seeing it as part of my development, part of how it's made me, and to get out and learn and then to give back and understand that aspect is really, really important for me in terms of streetwise. That whole hip hop thing when it all first come out was just absolutely fantastic, really fascinating. That message was absolutely fascinating. Really, really exciting times, difficult times, but I think it gives you a really different perspective. I'm a trained therapist now as well, so I'm a metaphysical counsellor as well. So what I found in that aspect is a lot of therapists are white middle class. They don't come from council estate backgrounds and don't get into therapy or don't get into that sort of teaching, so they don't really learn that aspect. So I think I got that extra edge, especially with clients who come from that sort of background as well.
And why Broadcast Yourself? What was going on inside your head to make you seek us out to get your message out there?
It's always, I work in broadcast telly for a living, so I'm what we call a live video editor. So I turn around replays, slow-mos, angles on football. So if you see a goal go in, you'll see like a sequence of angles. So I may be across one of them angles, quick turnaround and doing it that. Or I tend to do more of the press, which is the hour build up to the show where you have the pundits and they're talking about analysis and they're talking about videos, and I'd be the one rolling that round, turning around the interviews really quickly, writing them out, because a lot of it isn't live. Everyone thinks it's live. Most of it's on quite 10, 15, 20 seconds delays.
Okay.
So, and it's all sort of rolled out to that sort of basis, and it's like a continuous roll of EVS machines making it look live, but there's a sense of you've got an element to clear it up, so there's not so many mistakes.
Interesting. Okay, so you're already in the broadcast space, but that's very different than broadcasting yourself. So why? Why do this?
I was always interested in creating my own podcast. It was always something in the back of my mind. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, listening to a lot of people I was really interested in. But for me, something was missing. there was an element I maybe wanted, also my own individuality I wanted to do. And then obviously I was looking for courses, and then online, and then I found you guys. I'd watched some of your videos. I'd watched the David Icke, I'd watched the Chris Eubank and the Dorian Yates. And I was sitting there going, this is totally different. This is like a total notch up in terms of podcasting, video. That's, for me, it was like live broadcast telly. It was that, to that degree in terms of studio element and production level. So that's what I found really interesting. And then when I was looking and just listening to yourself and the social proof and the name and everything else, I thought, yeah, this is the course to take. This is the job. It took me a while to make the decision. I think I'd gone to your payment thing about 4 or 5 times and gone back 4 or 5 times, but I eventually made the choice, and I'm delighted I've made the choice.
And you know, why London Real? Why trust us?
Just you know, you're there, social proof. You're pushing the boundaries. You're interviewing great guests. You're giving so much back to all of us. So in a way, why not work with the best? Why not work with people actually out there doing it, proving it? And what I found on the course, which I didn't realise, was just how brilliant the course has been. It's just made us accountable, responsible, but also created this space where the teams, the camaraderie, yourself, it feels like an extended family sometimes, and that, for my background, that's really important, because belonging is really difficult. So you don't trust a lot. So being in a safe space and being able to trust develops that space where you can show yourself, and you've allowed me to do that on this course. So that's been brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's been great having you. Talk to me about that first week, though, when I drop you in to this private Facebook group, 150 people around the world. I'm asking you to upload video of yourself. You got me twice a week on these live calls, one from here, one from my house. Accountability doc. What's that whole experience like?
It's a real mix of absolute terror and fear, but another part was really exciting. Really like, wow, this is going to be really, great. Let's see what it's about. And I think what you have made me do and develop is action. Taking action, going to women and trusting the process has been really, really important. So it was intimidating. I mean, there was a part of it was, curiosity is just going through the roof in terms of like, what is this about? What's happening next? And it was a real challenge for me just to do that simple blog or vlog, whatever you want to talk. And I look back at it now, I'm not looking into the camera, I'm looking somewhere else. And it's like, but you've helped me develop, being more trustworthy and I suppose better with myself, to be able to sit in front of the camera and do it that way.
Tell me about this community. What are they like? What are these different people like, and what do you learn from them?
I've never known anything like this sort of community. I've been in therapy groups, I've been in loads of other groups, but this community is so supportive. Everyone's so generous with their time and effort. You've created a really quite competitive space. The little groups has worked really, really well in terms of keeping us on our toes and quite competitive. And the Olympics thing on Friday is fantastic. It just adds that fun element. You can release the tension. We're all working really hard, but for us, for our group, it was just a way of releasing the tension and working towards something else as a bonus. And that elation at the end of the Friday night and winning the gold was fantastic.
And you won a few golds, didn't you?
Yeah, we won a few golds. We had like 30 or 40 gifts after that where people were just flying off celebrations. But yeah, it was really, really good.
And what's it like seeing these people in person in London?
Yeah, that's another totally different experience, because I suppose you have visions, you create how tall they are, how what they look like and everything else. But I think meeting them, and like last night, that ability last night, just to understand them, we're all human beings, you get that much more human element. And everyone was very gracious last night, very warm, very open, very interested in your ideas. I'm looking forward to tonight as well because of that. So more conversations, more understanding people. But it was a privilege. I'd say it was a privilege again last night to meet them in person and shake their hands.
What did you struggle with the most on this course?
Myself.
Explain. Just
being seen, my body image, and you come from that sort of background, you're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to have a voice, really. You're just shame, all that aspect. You're just constantly kept small. So you're breaking boundaries constantly over and over again to be seen on camera for me. I couldn't explain. I mean, I've been in therapy 4 or 5 years, so to be seen on camera is it's mind-boggling for me. It still all seems a bit surreal at the moment in terms of I'm actually out there and I'm watching myself and I'm listening to myself, and that's a process I'm going to trying to get more comfortable with as that's happening.
But you're doing it.
Yeah. And that's what's so fantastic about this course. You end up with what you signed up for. I have my podcast. I'm interviewing guests I never imagined I was going to interview. I've interviewed 2 people. If you'd asked me 18 months ago, was I going to interview them? Not in a million years. It would have been a pipe dream. So I've interviewed them, and also the whole fear, the whole setup, the ritual you taught us was fantastic. That breathe, get into a nice place. I was bringing all that stuff for me, but then I ended up with a conversation with them, and it was just a fantastic conversation. And it's going to open up different doors for me in terms of other people and meeting new areas of my life and aspects like that as well.
What's the name of your podcast? And tell me about it.
So the podcast is called Mind the Gap.
Nice.
So there's a quirky element to it because we live in London.
Yeah.
So I always think there's synchronicity with the world sometimes, because I used to work on London Underground as a telecoms engineer. So I used to actually fix that Mind the Gap. So you know the tube when it comes in an embankment?
Yeah.
And it comes and goes, please mind a gap between the platform and the edge.
Yeah, the audio.
So I used to fix it. So there's a real synchronicity with it. So we were quite young then, we was apprentices, so we used to just muck around with the timing. So sometimes it go off and the tube wasn't in the station, so a bit naughty, but just a bit of fun every now and again. But if the podcast is about, I ask my guests to pick a film. So everyone has a film. Everyone loves a film. Everyone's got that film where they resonate with, and this really impacts them emotionally. And so we talk about the hero's journey in the film, the protagonist's journey. And what I like to do in the podcast is start relating that journey to my guest's journey. So it's a really good way of raising their self-awareness, trying to understand why do they read. Some people watch films, they're not even sure why they resonate with that character in the film. So it allows them to start connecting parts of themselves to the main protagonist, and then we talk, how close do you think you are on their journey? Where do you think you are on this journey? What do you think you need? So the gap is what I call that crossing the threshold. It's that space where we know we have big dilemmas in our life, it's crisis, losing your job, losing relationships. You end up in this gap, which is confusion, disorientation. So how do you become more comfortable in the gap, that's the real place to learn for me. That's the real transferential space. But some people stay in it too long. What do you need to get out of it? And so what I do with the film, we talk about how did the hero get out of it? Would that be something you could do? How could we?
So it's like a therapy session.
So that's the idea. I want to make it more. Therapy's still got a massive stigma to it in this country. It's still got a very negative connotation. So for me, it's a really good way of opening people up to themselves and exploring who they are. Be interested in themselves.
I love it. This is a great micro niche, you know, and it's a great novel idea, and it's perfect for new media. You can do it your way. So I like it. And what if you've never seen the movie before? You go watch it?
I always watch a movie. Okay. I always go and watch it because I think it's not only important what the movie is about, it's what it brings up for me as I'm watching it, because I think that's really important for I can relate back. I say, when I watched it, it meant this to me. Yeah. Can you see what that means to you?
Yeah, that's cool. What was the biggest win for you on this course?
There were so many. So the biggest win, obviously, is having the podcast. That was the ultimate goal, to have the podcast. And interviewing guests I never thought I'd interview. But also now be part of this team, be part of this group is a massive, to be sitting here in front of you now it's just unimaginable, really. It's just a different world.
You made it happen. So.
Yeah.
And tell me about you. If we walked out on the street right now or walked out to Fulham and bumped into the Kevin who didn't take this course, how's that guy different than you?
I just think it's not the same person. It's just a totally different person. It's a person wanting to do things. It's a person who has aspirations but just keeps himself small, keeps himself down, doesn't believe, doesn't trust himself, I'd like to go and have a conversation with him and say, you need to get on and do this course.
Get him on your show.
Yeah.
And last question to someone who's on the edge, thinking about taking this course, but just not sure if it's the right decision. What would you tell them?
This is definitely the right decision. Don't be afraid. The one thing about this course is it's all about action. It's all about accountability, and it's about momentum. It's about pushing you through the resistance, and the setup you have pushes everyone through. As long as you've got to be committed. It's got to be something you really want to do, I think, ultimately. Otherwise, you'll fall by the wayside. But everything's in place for you to get what you want at the end of it.
How many episodes do you have?
I have 14 now, so I'm doing two a week, if you told us. That's fantastic.
You're on fire.
Yeah.
Well, for the next 12 months, you're in your group. We're going to be watching you, and you're going to be holding everybody else accountable. This is an incredible group of people, as you know, so stay in touch with them. Welcome to the family, and I'm just looking for you to do big things. I'm super excited. I love your niche. I've never heard of anything else like it out there, and I think it's a fascinating way not to have just a conversation, but to go deeper with a guest, and I just see the sky the limit for you, Kevin. So thank you so much for the energy you brought on this course, and to Team Gunnar and everything. Super excited for you, and great to have you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to envision my dreams. They're starting to develop, and I don't think I'll never forget what you've achieved for me to have my podcast on there. It's been fantastic.
Cool. Well, on London Real, we say it's about the journey, so I wish you well on yours, and let's do some big things, all right?
Thank you very much.
Cool, Kevin, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon.